Hi there. I have a question for you today. Where have you seen God at work in your life recently? Now, for me, I've seen God working in a couple of important relationships that I have, restoring those relationships and giving some freshness to them. And I definitely sensed God's presence all around me when I was out on a walk this morning and saw some things that I had never even seen before or noticed. And He's also been giving me clarity about what to say yes to and what to say no to in this season of my life. But it hasn't always been that way. There have been times when I wasn't sure how I would answer a question like that. What's God been doing in your life recently? Or I've even wondered whether He was at work at all. And I had one of those times maybe about 15 years ago. And I shared my situation with a friend. And she suggested that I might consider using the spiritual practice of the examen. And that's what I want to share with you today, because I've used it many times. I used it then, and I've used it so often since then. And each time I do, I find that I do gain new clarity. And I do see God in places where I hadn't even noticed Him before. It's a chance to really think about my life and to see Him in my day-to-day activities. Now, you're probably wondering, well, what on earth is the examen? It's not examining your deepest, darkest secrets or anything like that. It's actually examining your days. It's walking backwards through your days, or we even say praying backwards through your days. So here's how it works. At the end of a day, or I guess it could be any time, but it's best at the end of a day or the end of a week, you would sit down and think back over that period of time. And you might even make a few mental notes or jot down some things about your day, what you did during that period of time, what you were thinking and what you were feeling that day. And then go back and ask yourself about the day 2 questions. And one of my favorite questions to reflect on and even write about is, where did I see where did I feel most peaceful during the day? And the second question would be, where did I feel most anxious during that day? And then after I've written about them and reflected on them for a few minutes, I might go back and read them and notice some patterns or notice some themes or notice God's activity in my life, something that I might have otherwise missed if I hadn't paid attention, as I just did. And then once I've written those things down and even looked at them, then I would want to spend a little time praying over those things. Pray about everything that you notice there, the things God reveals to you, the blessings that He shows you, or the places where maybe things didn't go so well, or where you were really disappointed. And as you do that and you find those themes emerging, you will begin to see where God is really directing you and leading you. And particularly as you pray about those things, the blessings and the things that didn't go so well, God will give you insights and new understanding and new perspective about each of those things. So I want to invite you to give it a try. Try the examen tonight or in a day coming up, the end of this week, whatever works for you. And see what God shows you. And particularly if you're having one of those times when you're not sure where God is at work in your life. This is a really good practice to bring those things into focus and to recognize His presence in your everyday life. And as you use any of these practices that we've been talking about over the last few weeks, including the examen, this is my prayer for you from Philippians 1, 9 and 10. These words I would pray for you, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless until the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God. That's what these spiritual practices are all about, helping us to abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight.